The Nintendo Switch, if you really start to think about it, has brought us so many incredible things now that we're able to kinda look at the console in retrospect. Very clearly, Nintendo wanted to put the gimmicky controllers and interfaces in the past and let the games do the talking, and I think we can all agree the results? Pretty damn outstanding. Just in the last few years, we got a 2D Metroid, we got a 3D Kirby, we got a Paper Mario Thousand Year Door remake. I could go on for so long about how many great things Nintendo did for this console. Sushi Striker? But to just set the stage here, if we go back in the time machine a little bit, 10 months into the Switch's life cycle, everyone's still playing Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, Xenoblade 2. Nintendo stops for a second and goes, you know what? We're gonna start selling you cardboard, damn it, and you're gonna like it. I have always loved that bizarre part of Nintendo. It's part of the reason why the Wii and DS era will likely always be a favorite of mine. Sure, the overall game quality may have improved in some cases dramatically ever since, but it's thanks to Nintendo's obsession with fitness during this time with the balance board that still allows me to play Tetris with my body to this day, and you can't do that on Xbox, therefore I love Nintendo. Now obviously that level of attempting to cater to everybody really shot themselves in the foot during the Wii U days, we all know that, but it's still exciting to see a little part of that was still going to exist on the Switch with Nintendo Labo. Labo. I guess you can just kind of throw O at the end of anything that Nintendo does now and it makes sense. Like Alarmo, sure, whatever, man. But okay, I can kind of see the vision here. If you played the sandwich eating game in 1-2 Switch and you had really hoped to see more of that IR camera in action, well boy howdy. Why? Probably really sucked when you found out the Switch 2 is not gonna have that, huh? When I made my original Nintendo Labo video a few years ago, only the first 2 kits had launched, and if I remember correctly, I was saying things along the lines of, I like what they're going for, there's a lot of potential, and I'm very excited for the future. Not much came out of that future, but hey, here we are. And if you're wondering how I've been able to take care of all these cardboard creations after all these years, I have moved a good bit since then. It's been in multiple closets, all of it just kind of sitting in one giant garbage bag. It's just been sitting in a garbage bag for years in one closet, and then I moved it to another closet and everything's still good. I don't know what else they expected me to do with them. But now, in this current year, I think it's safe to say the Nintendo Labo experiment is done, and Reggie Fils-Aimé himself has come out and said that Labo was a bit of a failure. It didn't meet Nintendo's expectations. What? Dude, how is that even possible? Did you not see the glowing praise John Carpenter gave it?
Frankly, this thing sucks.
You ever think about how ominous the Labo reveal trailer is if you just repeat those first few piano notes throughout the entire thing? Oh, this became a psychological horror. I'm so excited. So now on to the main event. I have every single Nintendo Labo Toy-Con kit. I have played, basically from what I can tell, every single game that dared to have Labo compatibility. We're gonna rank every single creation in terms of how fun they are and how versatile they are. And at the end of the day, we're also gonna be taking a look at Game Builder Garage, just to round out the details, you know? I wanna cover everything here, because I don't wanna come back to it. Oh hey, how did that get there? Well, since you asked, let's get to the ad read. Come on now, this entire episode is about opening up cardboard to a whole bunch of goodies inside, right? What is better than a whole box filled with fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and recipe cards, allowing you to craft some delicious homemade meals in arguably less time than it takes to complain about video games designed for small children on the internet? HelloFresh has been a regular sponsor on this channel for a long time now, whether I'm directly using their ingredients or just using their million recipe cards in perpetuity because I love them so much. HelloFresh has genuinely become one of my favorite services out there. But it's a new year and things are better than ever before. Did you know there are 50 plus dinner options every week that allows you to customize your deliveries on a week-to-week basis? Plus, with calorie smart, protein smart, family-friendly options and more, everything can be tailor-made to your lifestyle and your schedule. Plus, when you try HelloFresh for the first time, you will get free breakfast for life while your subscription is active. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day after all, and I know you don't have breakfast every day, don't lie to me. Bro, HelloFresh has got your back, dude. Look at that. That food there, that certainly looks delicious. So go to the link down below, use my code ANTFEB10 and receive 10 free meals plus free breakfast for life while the subscription is active and you're in the US. Dude, that is a deal if I've ever heard one. Thanks so much to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's video, and now, back to the main course. You get it? That's a food pun. First and foremost, the question on everybody's mind, what even is Nintendo Labo? What you're initially presented with is this nice big old box that says it right there in the center, Nintendo Labo. These are called Toy-Cons. I like to imagine the person at Nintendo who thought of that name, because you know the controllers are Joy-Cons, I'm sure they were so excited with themselves. It's very clear that this is all a child's product, and you can argue that someone who is not a child critiquing this doesn't make a whole lot of sense because I'm clearly not the demographic. I agree, but I'm gonna do it anyway. You crack this sucker open and you're presented with so much stuff. For one, the software, of course. Kind of interesting, they're given black spines instead of the traditional red ones to make them stand out in an entire collection. Only 4 of these exist, so it's just a small little black mark on an entire wall of red, but hey, there you go, at least it's different. You also get a little plastic bag of goodies, there's rubber bands and stickers in there, just a whole bunch of stuff to make the whole Labo process work. It's not just cardboard here, we're also wasting plastic. But then yeah, under that plastic bag, it's an entire forest's worth of cardboard, man. The premise is simple. Each of these cardboard sheets has a symbol and a letter in the top corner. The software goes, okay, you're gonna wanna get this piece out of A, and these perfectly perforated edges, you can pop them out. The sound effect that you have in real life when you pop them out is very satisfying, so I can appreciate that. And you just go through these entire processes, popping things out of these cardboards and sticking them together. It goes on for like an hour or two, depending on the project you're working on. And I mean, yeah, it's definitely a kid thing, but if you're a fan of like Lego or Gunpla, anything that you just have to build yourself, there is still some satisfaction here, I'm not gonna lie. It's especially fun when you have a cat that really enjoys cardboard. It's his life or a Nintendo accessories life. You're putting me in a tough position here. Now, as for why Nintendo would do this in the first place, well, I can kind of see it. Like, it's just cardboard here, then I'm making a whole bunch of crazy molded plastic, so they're cheaper accessories. And if you think about it, what's really gonna happen if one breaks and then you ask for a replacement from your parents? Like, your mom's gonna be like, what, you think these things grow on trees? And then you can be like, well, actually. There was a whole selling point about being able to customize your creation too. There was an official sticker kit that you can get, and obviously it's cardboard, so you can color it however you want, but if you're not gonna use it for more than 1 or 2 things, it just kind of feels like a waste. The whole idea was, okay, you would buy this thing, you would make these creations, and then you would use those creations in multiple games for each accessory. And then who knows, this could be supported for years and years. That didn't happen. A majority of the creations that you're gonna see today only work in the Nintendo Labo software it initially comes with. Add 1, maybe 2 games in there for good measure. Okay. So yeah, safe to say Reggie Fils-Aimé was correct on this one. It did not land anywhere near how Nintendo had wanted it to, and you can tell they feel bad about it because if you look on the YouTube channel, they have since removed all of the dedicated Labo trailers for the public. Yeah, you can find them on other people's channels for sure, but Nintendo themselves, they don't want to talk about it. They do want to say that, hey, if you have the VR headset, you can play it in Smash Brothers, cool, but as for what exactly the vehicle kit's all about, I don't know what you're talking about, man. Nintendo has no idea. Dude, I can barely even find anything on the official website for it too. Like, the YouTube channel is one thing, but outside of a couple Q&As in the support section of the website, there is nothing here. This is a bit of an embarrassment, I take it. I guess that makes the official Nintendo Labo trailers off the official Nintendo YouTube channel lost media. Which really is a shame because when you pop the game in, you can see that there was a lot of passion and thought put into this. And the online Nintendo community really tried to work with it too, because one of the basic creations here is a Joy-Con man. It's in the original reveal trailer, and the whole idea is you can vibrate it and then he falls over, cool, but some people were like, oh man, put him in Smash. Like, okay, man, sure, that's something. That went nowhere, but okay. Man, it even felt bad when Yoshi's Crafted World of all games didn't really get a lot of Labo support. The whole game is made out of arts and crafts, and all they have is you can put Yoshi in a little box that says Nintendo Labo. Dude, sick. Before we really dive into the weeds here and talk about every creation individually, I do want to say that as a whole, I think Nintendo Labo is brilliant. Sure, on the surface it's kind of a joke now because we know how little this thing got used, but when you really go in there and see how these creations are made, how rubber bands fit into the equation, with these reflective stickers, how the Joy-Con sensor can detect them and that's how everything moves, some things are just there to make cool little noises to add to an immersive factor for these things. Like, there's a lot of super cool things in here, and then the software is so well made too. I was using the Zelda Skyward Sword one, so there you go, look at that, a blue and purple Joy-Con. I just think that's neat. And here we have the 3 main attractions: Make, play, discover. The make part, self-explanatory, I've already explained it. Step-by-step processes showing you how to make the piano of your dreams. You can interact with this process with one of the Joy-Con analog sticks so you can speed up and slow down as you see fit. There's very catchy music that builds the further on in the process you get. There's quirky dialogue there too if you focus on reading it, like when you finish this pedal here and it goes, step on me as much as you like. Yo, Nintendo is freaky for this. You got play, and this is where all the main games are. This is where you can use those creations you made for the 1 or 2 things they built it for, and have fun, maybe. I don't know, but you're playing it. Whether or not it's fun is up to you. And then you have Discover. This is where you can really learn how every single Toy-Con works, as well as get a behind-the-scenes look at how the Joy-Cons work. This is all thanks to 3 brand new characters. Professor Jerry Riggs, Learn a Lot, and Plays All the Time. Oh my god, these are Ace Attorney-ass names here. Learn a Lot is definitely going on the witness stand. Again, there's a lot of intricacies that go into these creations, like especially the giant robot kit. You kind of want to know just what exactly you're doing, and hey, this is the place for you. In some of the software, you even have a studio that you can dive into, and you can make your own possibilities come to life, like telling the Joy-Cons when to react to certain inputs, and that's basically what the Joy-Con Man falling down is all about. You can make that happen. That's not a built-in thing. You can make it happen. It's no WarioWare DIY, but it's cool. I'm sure someone got creative with it. Interesting little nugget though is that technically speaking, Switch OLEDs are not compatible with the Nintendo Labo kits. And it all comes down to the OLED model being just slightly bigger than the original model. You see a bunch of these creations have these areas where you can put the Switch into, and obviously if it's too big, you're gonna have a tough time. But luckily, this is just cardboard at the end of the day, so it's gonna break down at some point. Shove the OLED in there, it'll be fine. It's another one of those reasons why the Switch 2 is not gonna be compatible with this. What a shame. What else is there? I found out that there are these Pokemon kits that were released in Japan, and like no one has like ever talked about this. This blew my mind. It's cool. I mean, you can get like a vibrating Pikachu and Eevee if you want. And then looks like there was even like this whole tilting toy thing. Like this is pretty cool. Why didn't they do more of this? And Nintendo gave the fans exactly one opportunity to strut their stuff at the Nintendo Labo Creator Contest back in 2018. Essentially, people would make whatever craziness that they want using the studio. There were categories for Best Toy-Con Mod, Best Original Invention. At the end of the day, there were 6 creations that went home with a victory. And just what exactly did these victors win? Well, an entire Nintendo Labo themed console. Not just a fancy little sticker kit for the Joy-Cons, okay? Like the entire thing is themed around cardboard. The Joy-Cons, the dock, even the Switch itself, all decked with cardboard aesthetics. Oh my goodness, this thing is so stupid rare. At the time of this video, I can only find information on one of these consoles changing hands. The user console variants, and I guess if anybody, they deserve to have it, bought one from one of the winners with a price that is undisclosed. So we still don't know the value of these things. I'm just gonna assume a lot of money. And is it worth it? I don't know, it is kind of sick. The very first creation in the entire Nintendo Labo suite is the RC car. And it's pretty lame. It's clearly the most beginner of all the beginner creations. You can just put the 2 Joy-Cons on the side of it, and then on the touchscreen, you can change the frequency of the vibrations to tell this thing how to move forward and backward and to turn, and you can look through the lens of the camera if you want. That's kind of neat. No, it's not. This is a D. Okay, finally the first creation worth a damn, the fishing rod. This is a great example of just how cool Nintendo Labo can be, because yes, it is cardboard, and as you can see here, there's pieces that go into itself to let you elongate the rod. I like that. It's good for storage purposes, that's cool, but also this really long string that attaches to the base. Combining that with the game detecting the slightest tilts of the rod actually does make this feel pretty immersive, because as you can see on the screen, the string does kind of correlate in game to what you're doing in real life. That's awesome. Plus the handle makes little clicky noises as you're reeling in a fish. It's a really cool thing all around. As for the game this cool bit of hardware comes with, it's just a basic fishing game. You throw out your hook, you wait a little bit, and then something catches it, you reel it in, and then boom, you did it. Hooray. I guess it's kind of neat seeing just how deep the water goes because more of the creepy creatures are down there, but I don't know, this doesn't really have that much lasting power. Any of the fish that you do catch show up in the game's aquarium, and this is kind of cool too. Aquariums are always as immersive little features. Plus, this is one of the few games that has crossover support with another Labo creation, the piano. You could cut a shape into this piece of paper, slip it in, the Joy-Con detects it, and then makes a fish based on that shape. Hey, cool? This is gonna be a reoccurring trend with every single one of these creations. The fishing rod itself, super neat. The software the game comes with to utilize this creation, it's whatever. But this is also an example of a third-party game having Nintendo Labo functionality, introducing Fishing Star World Tour. It's the fishing game with the character that looks straight out of Pokemon Let's Go, not to be confused with Ace Angler, the fishing game with character designs clearly based on Animal Crossing. Two totally different games here. For what it's worth, Fishing Star is pretty fun. It's a very arcadey take on the whole fish catching thing. You would go to this one location, catch a bunch of fish. It's very bombastic and loud and in your face. You do a couple missions, you move on to another location, and then rinse and repeat. It's not a mind-blowing experience, but it's alright. There's a bunch of unlockables in this game, so at least you know there's a reason to play it more than once. Now, as for the Labo functionality, I mean, it works. I'm kind of tired of playing the game this way, but it does work. And that's it. That is the only third-party game I could find that uses the fishing rod, so yay. Fishing Star World Tour exceeded my expectations, but the fishing rod itself and everything you can do with it, that's gonna get a C. More like a C+. In the entirety of the variety kit, the house has the most versatility just within the game itself. You head into your humble abode and look at this little guy. His name is Fluffball. He's adorable. And it's like a Tamagotchi, basically. You kind of just watch him be, and then you can mess with him. This effect really gets amplified if you actually play this in portable mode, but along with the house itself, you would create these 3 different modules that you would attach to the sides of it. And by doing so, you would create chaos for this little guy. You could change the time of day, you could put him to sleep, you can give him some food, you could fill his house with water and almost drown him. But the really cool thing is mixing and matching these modules to unlock special rooms. If you put the button on one side and the crank on another, you'll force Fluffball to be in a hamster wheel, and you can turn the crank as fast as you can and then eventually get a reward. There's a dressing room, you can do a minecart segment out of Donkey Kong Country, there's bowling, you can change his pattern. It's pretty neat stuff. But is there like a game to go along with this? No, it's just watch the little guy do things and you can do things to watch the little guy react to it, and that's it. No third-party games. There's only 3 different modules, so of course your options are limited. I guess if you want to customize the house, that's kind of cool, but man, this sucks. I'm gonna give this a D. There's just not much to do here. I like Fluffball though, give him an A. Put him in Smash next, I don't care. Super exciting to see the motorbike Toy-Con be thrown into the variety kit, even though there would eventually be a vehicle kit. And this does have a vehicle portion in the variety kit, but I mean, I guess it's also variety. Something seems off, I don't know about you. But okay, finally, there's an actual game here. It's a racing game. You race on motorcycles and a bunch of tracks in circuit mode. Very much like a motorcycle, you will tilt the right handle to accelerate. There's a couple extra buttons there too if you want to mess with those on your racing adventures. And yeah, there's a handful of tracks you can go on. You can race against a bunch of CPU characters. It's a racing game. I will say though, I'm not a huge fan of how this thing feels. Once again, not a small child, so take this opinion with a grain of salt. The cardboard just starts to dig into my hands, and then there's this big center bit that sort of goes into your stomach, and I don't really like how that all feels. It's functional, but in terms of it just feeling good, not a big fan. It's a shame though, because the content here is actually pretty decent. There's actually a course creator. You drive a path and then the course creates itself under your wheels. Kind of similar to Mod Nation Racers, kinda, maybe. There's a stadium mode too, where you can compete to get more sparkly items than everyone else. And there's even an IR gun creation that you can make, just for the sole purpose of making whatever obscene things you want to show up, and then boom, that's your new stadium you can play with. Sick. But it's the motorbike kit, and exclusively the motorbike kit from this first set, where they said, oh yeah, we should actually make this function with a proper Nintendo game.
Mario Kart 8!
Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has functionality with a motorbike kit. How many people out there do you know who have used the Motorbike Labo kit on the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass downloadable content for the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe game? Probably not many. I may be one of the only people in the entire world to experience this. It's so funny to me too because like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe got all this extra content. People have been staring at this menu for years now, and that Nintendo Labo button has been there the whole time. No one has asked any questions about it. It's just there. We don't talk about it. I'm talking about it. It's just kind of whatever. But hey, believe it or not, there's actually a second game that uses the motorbike kit, Moto Rush GT. The premise is straightforward. You're a motorcycle rider who don't give a damn about the rules. You're gonna lane split your way into an early grave. Damn it, no one's gonna stop you. Except, you know, the other cars. When I first booted this up, it drove me insane because, like, if you look at the road, you have the double lines, which indicate that that's when the other cars are supposed to be going in the other direction, but everyone's going one way, and I'm like, what the hell are we doing here? There are so many rules being broken now, I'm going crazy. Eventually the difficulty ramps up, and then cars actually start to go the other direction across the line, so like, okay, finally, realism. But if you don't think about it, it's a fine enough score attack game, and if you have the motorbike kit, then you can just tilt with that instead of using an analog stick. Because it's a motorcycle game, it does make sense. The immersive quality is there. If I'm going to choose one of the two games to play on the motorbike kit, it's actually going to be this one. Moto Rush GT is better than Mario Kart 8 Deluxe in one thing and one thing exclusively. So that's going to bump it up a little bit of a notch. I think at the end of the day, I'm going to say the motorbike kit gets a C. Solid potential, a little bit painful to control in my hands. And hey, I found another third-party game that's not the worst thing in the world. Cool. Just, God, if you're a motorcycle rider, please don't do this. Oh my God, I do not condone this. Oh my God, this is so dangerous. Listen, all right, I'm gonna say one thing here that's gonna be a bit of a hot take, but I don't think John Carpenter knows what he's talking about. On the surface, the piano, yeah, it's whatever. The software that comes in the Labo kit, it's not that great. It's just you can play a bunch of basic songs and you can manipulate the pitch by these things on the side of the piano. You can put in these other modules to change the instruments into cats and singing guys and grandpas. They really gave us a Peter Griffin instrument, huh? How is John Carpenter not impressed? The coolest one though is a module that changes the instruments to nothing in-game. The game is actually silent, but it makes notes come out of the Joy-Con via vibrations. One of my favorite things the Joy-Con can do is actually play music via vibrations, and nobody has ever taken advantage of that. The final segment of Kirby Star Allies, a mid-as-hell Kirby game, plays Kirby music via the Joy-Cons as the celebratory statue comes up, and it's so damn cool. Golf Story does this crazy vibration as you're sending a golf ball into the unknown. That's awesome. And here, yeah, you can play a bit of music via vibration. That is sick. I acknowledge I'm totally overhyping the hell out of this. I think it's really cool. But outside of that, there's a studio where you can make multi-instrument tracks, and with the use of another tool with another Joy-Con, you can set the tempo for it, so maybe there's something there, but I don't know, it's not for me. People were able to make music out of electroplankton too, so there's a market for it. It's just not me. But there's no game here, and that's what really sucks, but thankfully, once again, a third-party game has come through to show this potential to its fullest. Demo. This is a rhythm game that has existed for years, but this is the first time I've ever played it. And man, turns out Demo is amazing. Gameplay-wise, it is dozens and dozens of musical tracks with piano as the main instrument, and so many of these songs are beautiful. This was initially a mobile game, so touchscreen is the primary interface used for this game, but it does have button controls too, and if you do so, it is very simplistic, but it does ramp up in difficulty if you so choose. Once again, the music is really good, and hey, take the Switch into handheld mode, you can do the touchscreen stuff no problem. Having that versatility, man, I had a blast with Demo, and that's not even talking about the aesthetics. This sort of creepy, underground, this color palette is beautiful. This kind of cutesy dynamic of this girl who falls into this mysterious cave, and then there's this big piano playing creature that you're associating yourself with, and then as you're playing more songs, you're unlocking more parts of this area. Like, oh my God, this game is so cool. But you sift through the menus, and yes, you can see there is a Nintendo Labo piano selection of songs. And this became my favorite way to play this game, because then it plays exactly like you want it to. The notes come down on the piano key you need to hit, you hit them in order, you got a full slate of keys as well as the flats and sharps up there. Keep in mind, I am a huge sucker for rhythm games here, so I was probably gonna like this game no matter what, but man, so far, this is my favorite Labo creation just for Demo. There is a sequel called Demo Reborn, which ups the production values a whole lot as well as changes up the main gameplay mechanics, and it's fine, but it really doesn't hit the same as the original demo for me. Plus they added this whole thing where you can like explore the underground area in a 3D space, and I don't know, it's cute, but totally unnecessary. And it has no Nintendo Labo piano support, so quite frankly, I really don't care. If Demo were not in the equation, the piano would get a D, just for barely having anything to do in the Nintendo Labo software itself, but for Demo alone with the piano functionality, A. I don't care, man. A rank, for sure. John Carpenter, I know you're giving up on this thing already, but man, play Demo, it's sick. The robot is without a doubt the most notable Labo creation just for the sheer size of this beast. With every other Labo kit that came out, there are multiple creations in one box, so you got a real bang for your buck. But here, just one robot, buddy. You got just one robot. It's 1,000,000 pieces of cardboard for one stupid robot. And the game has the audacity to say, hey, there's also a 2-player mode. Find a friend, somehow, that also owns the robot kit and then fight each other. Okay, cool. I guess I gotta do that one day. Now on a technical level, yes, this is also very impressive. You got strings and these weights made out of cardboard sitting in the back of this huge box here. They attach to hand grips as well as feet grips, and then by moving your hands and feet, it moves the weights, and that correlates with things that go on in the game. It's pretty crazy stuff. There's a headpiece you put on too to really make you feel like a Nintendo Labo robot. Now here's a video of me in the robot kit from a few years ago. I just didn't want to put it on again. And then you go into the game, and wouldn't you believe it, there's not much to do. The main mode is this sandbox where you go around just destroying a bunch of buildings and cars and stuff, and it's all fine and dandy, I guess. Again, on a technical level, it is cool. You lift your feet up, you start walking, and the crazy bars that you see in the back of the robot, those are actually the strings that are going on inside of the Labo kit. So cool, I'm fully immersed now. There's multiple actions you can do, like you can turn a certain way, you can fly, you can turn into a tank and zoom around, you can turn into a giant. But this basic score attack mode, it wears out its welcome super quickly. The challenge mode is a little bit more interesting because these are more linear missions. So having this type of gameplay interface, but with things to actually do, it's more entertaining, but there's only 15 here? I don't even know if there's more, to be honest. I wasn't gonna complete this. I got the gist of it, I'm good. There's a calories mode that attempts to show you how many calories you've burnt during all these exercises. There's a music studio because your motions now can play different instruments. You can customize the robot if you want, so that's cool. God, that's it? Really? No third-party games used it? You spend hours and hours building this one thing just for these couple modes, and I don't know, I guess at some point I'll force someone to play with me, but that's really not gonna make it that much more worthwhile. I'll say the robot gets enough credit just for being how technically impressive it is, but there's just simply not enough things to do with it. I'm giving it a D. Sorry, the things going on with the strings and the weights, very cool, but God, this is it? Really? That's crazy. The vehicle kit is the biggest surprise of the bunch. We can't simply talk about these creations individually like the previous kits, because everything comes together in one beautiful mode called Adventure Mode. You got a steering wheel, a submarine interface, a flight stick, a foot pedal to go along with the steering wheel for the acceleration, and a key that you use to activate any of the 3 vehicles. You hop into Adventure Mode and go! You drive around, you discover a whole bunch of regions, you do a whole bunch of side quests and meet a bunch of quirky NPCs. By God, this is a video game! It's very reminiscent of Wii Sports Resort Island Flyover game, which was an incredible experience, and this is the closest I've gotten to that joy since. You're finding a bunch of cows and bringing them back to their homes, you're finding random golf balls and knocking them back into their holes, you're going underwater and finding buried treasure, you're flying up in the mountains and popping a bunch of hidden balloons, you're finding hidden flags in each of the regions as well as gas stations, and this is kind of fun. You slowly run out of gas over time, and as the car, you drive up to it, you push this lever down, and you can start to pump your own gas. That's cute. This released at a time where gas wasn't obscenely expensive, so this was a fun idea back in the late 2010s, I approve. And if you want to do something different, well, back out of Adventure Mode, and there's a few other mini-games to do. The Circuit Mode returns if you want to do some races. There's the Rally Mode, that's like a time trial where you gotta go through all the rings as fast as you can. If you want to use just the foot pedal, there's a Slot Car Mode, that's cute. And there's a battle mode in this too. This is the most complete game of the entire bunch. It then all just comes down to how well do you enjoy controlling these different creations. Well, the steering wheel, of course, that's pretty self-explanatory. The foot pedal accelerates, you turn however you want, and then these two levers on the side, you can change what they do in game, but they function about as well as you would expect. There's also this little pulley that you can tug on that makes your car boost, and that's pretty satisfying too. The plane is probably the best one though. It's incredibly simplistic, but it really feels the best. You tilt whatever direction you want to go, and then there's a little button here that's just folded up cardboard, but that feels good too. And it all comes down to this piece of cardboard that you fold over a bunch of times, and that's the only thing that's dictating just how well this thing tilts, and it feels really good. What the hell? The submarine, okay, I'll be honest, I'm not a fan. It's two spinning parts on the sides of this thing, and then you gotta figure out how to tilt them in a way where you can like go one direction and then kind of go down at the same time, and I don't know, my brain can never wrap my head around this whole thing. I'm not a fan. I tried to get out of the water as fast as I possibly could, because oh god, I'm an idiot. But the best part of all of this is that let's say you find the adventure mode interesting, but you don't really care about the Labo part itself, you just want to play the game with normal button controls. Oh my god, they actually thought of you. There's an extra mode in this game where you can configure every in-game action to whatever real-world action you want it to be, and there is a pre-made configuration to play the entirety of this mode with button controls. This is awesome. Unfortunately, in my time playing this, it seems like the save data for this mode doesn't carry over with the proper Labo mode, so maybe you can't save the game the same way you can, like you can't just carry over from Labo mode to button mode, but I still had a good time. If you're willing to deal with those compromises, I would honestly say that Vehicle Kit Adventure Mode, this comes pretty recommended. This is one of the biggest surprise hits of the Switch generation, and I'm only finding out about this now. And one special shout out to the other creation from this kit, the spray can. This is just a quirky little way that you can aim a Joy-Con at the screen, paint the vehicles and even your main guy, any weird color combination you want, that's cool. But this thing here, one of the things they have you build for the spray can is just a tiny little cardboard ball that sticks in the bottom that has no other function but to make this feel like a genuine spray can. You shake it and then it makes the noise that sounds very reminiscent of an actual spray can. This is so cool! They put so much thought into this. But okay, you want some extra value? Sure. The steering wheel can also be used in
Mario Kart 8!
Hey, look at that, we're back. And it's just as whatever as the motorbike kit. Cool. But also, there's another Switch game that uses the steering wheel, Grid Autosport. On a technical level, this is a very impressive racing game for the Switch. This is one of those realistic type racing games where you drive an honest-to-goodness real-life car against a bunch of other honest-to-goodness real-life cars, and you figure out the best way to accelerate and turn thanks to all of these turning and deceleration lines on the ground. And for what it's worth, it's pretty cool. I'm terrible at these types of games though. I don't like this. But damn it, the steering wheel works. Hallelujah. I had this issue where like, no matter what I did, I just kept accelerating into the wall and I had no idea what to do. I was just stuck and then, hey, suddenly I fixed myself and then, oh, wait, no. Oh, it broke again. Cool. So I don't know if that's me being bad and I damaged the car. That's very possible. But in typical YouTuber fashion, I'm just gonna blame the game and not my own stupidity. Gotta maintain the gimmick, you know? But man, Vehicle Kit turned out to be a surprisingly good time. I'm really not a fan of the submarine interface, I'm just not smart enough to handle that, so I'm gonna give that a C, but the plane flight stick and the car steering wheel, dude, these both get A's. This is fantastic. The best uses of Labo so far. But now we move on to the fourth and final Nintendo Labo kit, the VR kit. It's an interesting situation because you would primarily build this and then the rest of the kit includes a bunch of other creations that would go alongside this. However, this thing right here also has the most compatibility with a wide variety of Switch games, so there's a lot to talk about here. We're going to talk about the entirety of the Labo VR kit first, all the weird creations that come in there, and then we'll talk about all the games that, damn it, they have VR support whether you like it or not. So yeah, let's get this started. First up, the VR camera. There are two different experiences here, one where you go underwater, and one where you go back into Fluffball's house. We're reusing assets now. Sick. To the software's credit though, there is an actual game here. You may initially think that you're just mindlessly taking photos of different things in your surrounding area, and you know, the VR effect is kind of cool, but once you take 3 photos, you get sent to a menu and you find out, hey, there are actually dozens of challenges to go for. It's basically just, there's a bunch of different things the game wants you to take a photo of and you gotta figure out how to do it. It's kind of neat, I guess. Dude, how do they really not add support for new Pokemon Snap? That's crazy to me. I mean, it's kind of cool. At least there are things to do and reasons to play the games multiple times over, something that the original kit where these assets are stolen from didn't have, so that's nice. And admittedly, when you're underwater, you can look up to ascend, look down to descend. It's kind of cool, so I wish there were more things you can do with it, but I'll give the camera a B. What the hell? Am I crazy? I feel like there could have been a different interface for this, but okay. Essentially, you're holding onto an elephant trunk with two hands, one to keep the headset up to your face and the other to aim. And what are you aiming at? Well, you can do painting in 3D. That's kind of interesting, I guess. And there's also a bunch of marble guiding puzzles. Okay, there's a video game. Oh my God. So you'll see a marble falling down and you have to properly guide it to the end goal. And there's usually one or two things you have to move in order to do so. I like this. Or so I thought, until I realized because you're tethered to a stupid elephant trunk, your movement options are incredibly limited, therefore it's not comfortable. I don't like this. Painting in 3D is something all the other VR headsets do, and obviously it does it infinitely better, so combining the mediocre experiences with just how clunky this thing is to hold, this is getting a D. D for Delephant, I guess. Finally, Nintendo is giving the fans what they've wanted for years. I've always wanted to shove my face in a bird's ass. And once again, we have a mode very similar to Wii Sports Resort Island Flyover. As a bird, you just fly around. It's actually pretty therapeutic. But throughout, you find a bunch of brand new hatchlings that all want you to do something for them, like give them food. The main goal of this game is to fully level up every single one of these birds, and then you can go to this giant golden egg in the sky, and what's in there? I don't know. I didn't do it because my arms were getting tired. This more so amplifies the issue with this interface in general than the game itself. Because this headset has no form of strap that comes with it, you have to keep your arms up the entire time. So yes, it gets kind of tiring. Again, maybe small children won't have this issue, but every other headset has a strap for this very purpose. It is so upsetting that this doesn't come with one. I would much rather that than me needing to flap the bird's wings by squeezing like crazy. This is strange. This did lead to some third parties out there making their own straps for this thing, and I mean, I get it, there's clearly a market for it, but it's still baffling Nintendo didn't do it. I'm not gonna go on AliExpress and buy something that's gonna be here in 3 months. No, thank you. The second bird game, though, does fare much better. It's another time trial go through the rings racing game. Now, you would think that my issues with the controls combined with now going fast would lead to disaster, but this is where another Labo creation comes in, the wind pedal. Dude, this thing is huge, but it's awesome. Push your foot down, the game will detect that as a motion, and this giant flap shoots a huge burst of cold wind in your face, and it actually makes things feel super immersive. And this is actually a good incentive to playing the other game because you can only access more race courses by exploring more of the map in the immersive bird mode. So overall, it's not completely ideal, but I really do like what they were going for here, and the wind pedal combination is super cool. And there's officially a thing from Nintendo that you can put your face in a bird's ass. So while I do have my issues, I'm still gonna give the bird a B. My arms are kind of sore, but still had a good time. They knew they were onto something with the wind pedal though, because there's actually a single game dedicated just for the wind pedal. It's this simple game where you're a frog, this circus bear is throwing a bunch of circus balls at you, and you gotta jump over them. As easy as that. But once again, the immersive quality of a huge burst of cold wind hitting your face every time you jump, it's pretty sick actually. A problem I had though is that my camera kept slowly drifting as I was playing. It could be because I was playing with an OLED and you're not supposed to do that, but I kept slowly tilting to the left and that kind of made this less of an enjoyable experience, but I'm assuming if this works, as intended, it's a much better time. There's really nothing else to do with the wind pedal, but just for how neat this whole idea of having a burst of wind in your face and having the game feel like it's making sense with that burst of wind, I love that combination a lot. This is also getting a B. Turns out the gaming world just needs more wind-based peripherals. I like this. We had the Zapper, we had the Super Scope, we had the Wii Zapper, and now we have the Labo Blaster. Nintendo loves their quirky Second Amendment. This is another positive of the entire VR kit, man, I'm telling you. The gameplay itself, it's kinda whatever. It's an on-rail shooting game against a bunch of aliens that are barely intimidating whatsoever. If anything, it looks like they're just living a peaceful life and you're there to stop it. You're the villain here. Reminded me of the stupid on-rails missions from the Raving Rabbids games. But dude, the blaster's kinda sick. It'd be one thing if you were just pointing at the screen and pressing a trigger and then that's it, but no. You have to cock the gun too, and it makes a sick clicky noise. maybe I am a small child at the end of the day. This is really cool. It's giving me a kind of similar vibe to the haptic feedback triggers on the PS5 DualSense controller. Like, yeah, of course, it's one thing to aim at the screen and shoot, and it feels like you're actually shooting at where you're aiming at that school, but to have this tactile feedback at all times, it's pretty fun, not gonna lie. There's a 2-player mode with this blaster as well, and it involves hippos. Finally. By cocking the gun, you suction a fruit of your choice, you aim at this entire pile of them just ready to eat something, and if you successfully get a fruit in one of their mouths, they'll come to your home base and drag anyone else along with them. And don't worry, you don't need a second blaster to enjoy this game in 2-player, it's turn-based, so you'll just hand the blaster to your friend when you're done, and vice versa, until hey, one of you wins. They turn Hungry Hippos into a turn-based RPG, this is awesome. The main issue though is, as cool as the blaster is, there is once again not enough to do with it. I don't feel the incentive to play every single mission of the blaster single-player mode just for the sake of it. There's nothing to unlock, nothing of the sort, and the opportunities for me to have a friend over and go, hey, you want to play the Labo Hippo game? And for that battle to actually take place are slim to none, so I'm conflicted, but I think I'm gonna give it a B. Like, for the majority of my time with the Labo VR kit outside of the Elephant kit, didn't like that whatsoever. I felt like a lot of the technology that went into this and how everything with the cardboard and the rubber bands and the clicking noises come together, it's so sick, and there's a lot more thought put into these games than any other individual game in the first 2 Labo kits. But once that impressiveness wears off, there's still not that much to do here. You could argue I'm ranking these things too high, but that's just where I'm at. So when it comes to the Labo VR software, all of those games you've already talked about is what you're playing this game for, of course, but there's some more there to play around with if you so choose. And none of it's really all that fun, but it's there. Alongside the handful of actual minigames, there's also a bunch of experiences. There are 64 of these little, I feel like they want to call them games, but they're really, experience is the best thing you can call them. It's a lot of the most bare bones stuff taking place in a very generic looking environment. The controls are always very simplistic, it's just that you happen to be viewing things in the realm of VR. I mean, hey, I understand, none of these have staying power whatsoever, even less than some of the minigames from the earlier Labo kits, but some of the complaints about those earlier Labo kits is there's not as much stuff to do, so hey, even if you spend an extra 10 seconds in each of these, it's something. There's also an entire selection of VR videos. Of course, it's a VR headset, of course you gotta get some videos in there. It's like I'm really having dinner with Mario, oh wow. And one of these, man, one of these really pissed me off. It's the Virtual Boy. You put the Virtual Boy headset in front of your eyes and then you watch the opening to Mario's Tennis, and that's it. Nintendo refuses to do the coolest thing with the Virtual Boy in either 3D or now VR, and it's upsetting. There's only like 2 good games for the Virtual Boy, Nintendo. Just port them and let me use the Labo headset. Come on. That rounds out the entire Labo VR built-in software, but you want to see more than that, right? There's a lot of games, actually, that take advantage of the VR headset. None of the other accessories like the blaster or the bird or whatever, just the headset itself. And why not? Let's talk about all of them, because I think I found all of them. Even a few crappy eShop games. I covered all my bases. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. You can watch battles happen in VR. So everything's really close, and then you can tilt your head to look at the other side of the stage. Oh man, that's exciting.
Super Mario Odyssey!
Hell yeah. For these, there are a few brand new micro levels, and you are stationary in one spot as you play as Mario, and you can just run around and get a few collectibles. That's it. Okay, this kind of sucks too, not gonna lie. Astrobot Rescue Mission, this is not. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. Okay, this one makes all the sense in the world to me. That game already had these 360-degree dioramas that you're rotating the camera around, so sure, having a little bit of functionality here makes sense. It's not the whole game though, and I don't know why that's the case. You got a snazzy little course selection screen, you got the first stage that you can play now in VR, cool. There's a first-person minecart segment, considering that was something in the Wii U version of this game that was taken out of the Switch version. You know, it's a cool little bit of fan service, I'm digging that. Would have really appreciated if the entire game were VR though. That actually would make total sense for this game, unlike The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, where you can play the entire game in VR. What are we doing here? segments of levels in Odyssey, different instances of levels in Captain Toad. You can play the entirety of Breath of the Wild with this stupid headset on. It's not even like anything's a VR mode, it's just the normal game, but you can tilt your head for the camera. What are we doing here? I mean, statistically, that means that at least one person out there has beaten the entirety of this game with the VR headset on, right? Well, I hope you have a really strong eyeglasses prescription because that sounds deadly. As far as first-party games though, that's it. Those are the only other first-party games that have VR support. Oh boy. Okay, that is very disheartening, but I did happen to find almost 10 third-party games that use the VR headset, and maybe these will be good, I don't know. Rooms, The Adventures of Anne and George. This has VR support. It's a pretty straightforward puzzle game. It's like one of those classic tile scrollers, except every tile is a different room in this big old mansion, and you're a character in those rooms, so you gotta figure out how to move your character along these different blocks and manipulate the environment on the fly and do these puzzles as efficiently as possible. It's actually a pretty solid puzzle game. It's worth noting that these third-party games also release on other VR services, so on PS4 with PSVR, or on the Meta Store, so you can use your Meta Quest or your Oculus Quest if you feel like using that name because it's better. It's a pretty fun puzzle game in all honesty, but this VR support, they really didn't try at all. Neon Wall. There's a little colored ball that's trying to make its way from point A to point B, and you gotta change the colors of the environment to allow it to do so. In non-VR gameplay, you just control both of these hands with the different analog sticks, and in VR, yeah, you use your hands. Not that fun of a puzzle game, also not that fun as a VR game. That's another pass. Reflex Unit 2. Alright, I won't lie to you on this one. I actually think this game's kinda cool. At first glance, it looks like a very traditional, like old school army type game that's a twin stick shooter, right? You're one army guy, you're clearly powerful enough to take out the entire opposition, just go in, guns a-blazing, bada bing, bada boom, you have restored freedom, time to go home to your kids. But actually, the entire game takes place in this sort of augmented reality situation. The environments are being projected up from this middle podium, and you can see the rest of the world around you, like surrounding it. It's kind of a neat premise, so when you play this game in VR and you take the control of someone who's looking at this augmented reality setup and playing the game that way, I feel like it's actually fairly immersive. Now, I would never play the game this way, but I do think it's kind of neat. Alright, let's knock these 4 out all at once. There's Laid Back Camp, and there's 2 of these, as well as Spice and Wolf VR 1 and 2. Both of these based on anime that may or may not be popular. I don't know, I've never heard of them before this. These are purely story-based games. You're just behind the eyes of one of the characters, and you're interacting with another one of the characters, or the environment, and there's a story taking place. But if you're not familiar at all with the source material, you're gonna get nothing out of these. Plus, you can also play them not in VR, so if you're a big Spice and Wolf fan, I'm not really sure if this extra slab of cardboard is gonna make your experience any better, but here it is. So yeah, I think you know where I'm going with this, but the VR headset never even got close to reaching its potential when other people were in control of what the game should be either. Nintendo didn't care, and the other third-party studios that put their games on Switch, they already had VR support on the other platforms, so it makes sense to have them here. But if you really care about VR and having a higher fidelity VR experience, you're not gonna play these games on Switch anyway, so okay. But of course, I am saving the best for last. The Night of Queen. Oh my god, I'm gonna vomit. Oh, this is bad. Oh, this is so bad. Why is the frame rate like this? I think it's trying to replicate like an old school NES Famicom era RPG where you moved tile by tile, and that's why it moves this jankily, but oh my god, it's so annoying, my eyes hurt. God, why does it all look so ugly? Everything is weird and blocky. It looks like it was made by a 5-year-old. I don't like this. Oh, this is bad. So many people experience motion sickness with VR games, and I understand that, but this is just gonna make it worse. If you get VR sickness and you start to play this, I'm sorry, it's gonna become terminal. I do gotta say though, these developers are actually working on a second game called The Night of Nefiart, and it actually looks way better. Like everything has a texture and a character model now, and it's another VR RPG. So, okay, they're sticking to their guns, making something decent, but man, those growing pains are crazy. So the Labo VR headset definitely brought some fun experiences to the table, I won't deny that, but no one really cared to make something really worthwhile with this. Nintendo simply didn't want VR to be something they truly had to focus on and put a lot of money into, and I guess when you look at how much Sony dropped the ball with PSVR 2, probably the best conclusion. I've still not seen one of those things in real life. I still don't think they're real. But oh, we're not done yet. What is secretly almost kinda the 5th Nintendo Labo set, introducing Game Builder Garage. This was announced completely out of the blue one day, and it was totally making sense immediately why this game existed. One fun-ish idea of the VR set was if you take a look at those 64 experiences and you see that they weren't all that hot, doesn't really matter because in-game you were able to build your own experiences with the Labo VR Garage. And I'm convinced nobody took advantage of it. So what Nintendo said was, okay, we made these tools to make your own games, let's add a little more polish to it and then give it its own software. And they really tried, you know, they really want to make this little pointy-nosed dude like a main character and make it be like, oh man, that's the Labo guy. They want some name value with this thing. There's also a whole bunch of brand new things called nodes, and these are all the different statements that you can be doing in the coding process of the game development here. Okay, you got characters that are teaching you a little bit of the ins and outs of how basic, very, very basic programming works. I like what they were going for here. I will sing the praises of WarioWare DIY until the day I die, and if we never get a proper sequel to that, at least they tried again here. But boy, did they fail here too. Immediate problem right out of the gate. You can't search for other people's games easily within the game. You publish your game, it comes with a code, and you have to share the code with other people on social media like Reddit. That's the only chance you have of finding anything here. And then you gotta go in, you gotta type the code, you gotta hope the right thing shows up, and if you wanna see more of the games that creator made, you gotta find the creator code because the software code will just download the one game and then send you back to the menu. It's a clunky mess. But I did find someone that tried to authentically replicate what it was like to play with the Rob the Robot. Oh, and it doesn't look fun at all, man. It's not that nothing interesting came out of Game Builder Garage. I found a whole bunch of different Sonic games, some that are side-scrolling, some that are from behind the back. I found some recreations of mini-games from Kirby's Adventure. That's an easy way to my heart for sure. I found one creator that was recreating a bunch of Mario Kart tracks. I thought that was pretty interesting. This is technically the only way to have Luigi's Mansion DS playable on the Nintendo Switch. That's depressing, but here we are. I found some 3D platformers here too, and I understand that game development is obviously very difficult, but it really feels like the tools that Nintendo gave, it really ain't cutting it. The ceiling of what's possible here is just far too low, as opposed to something like Dreams on PlayStation, where the ceiling is arguably way too high, but as a result, you have a select few people out there making some absolutely mind-blowing stuff. Here, I had to do a whole lot of heavy digging just to find a few codes out there. This very clearly was just meant to get a little bit more money out of the engine these developers created, and that was it, because, man, I appreciate taking a really advanced looking game and then looking at the coding and being like, wow, this looks absolutely insane. I can't wrap my head around this whatsoever. And then I try to play the game and I'm like, is this fun? Not really. It's not, no, not really. Although in my research, I did find one YouTube channel that was actually making some of the coolest things I had ever seen from this engine whatsoever, using real life objects with Joy-Cons attached to them and then making games out of that. Like, this stuff is super cool, like genuinely incredible stuff, but obviously that's the vast minority. Just make WarioWare DIY 2, Nintendo. I'm no longer asking. So, yeah, that covers the entirety of Nintendo Labo and Game Builder Garage, and at the end of the day, once again, some people did do some really cool things with Game Builder Garage, and I'm sure some kids out there are gonna have massive nostalgia over the Toy-Con piano or doing Toy-Con robot 1v1 battles with their friends in preschool. That's possibly gonna be a thing, but I think for the vast majority of us out there, very easy to say that this was a total flop. Though I did also find that there was one guy out there who tried to recreate Doom Eternal in the Labo VR kit. This is why the world is still pretty cool sometimes. Nintendo created software tools and hardware ideas with the cardboard, all meant to inspire people, and dropped the ball by not doing a stronger job getting that inspiration flowing. Compare this to, say, Mario Maker. We can all agree that they dropped the ball with ongoing support for Mario Maker 2 specifically, but still, by having a whole load of single-player levels and campaigns right there built in, you can immediately play one level and go, oh sick, an idea, and then pop in, make the level of your dreams, and then you're off to the races. It's a good time. But when you have just a mechanism that goes, hey, the Joy-Con can see stickers now, and then go, you set yourself up for failure, Nintendo, and it's a damn shame. I stuck my face in a bird's ass for nothing. So I guess it's not all-encompassing. I still didn't do the two-player stuff, so I guess my opinion isn't totally final yet. Maybe at some point I'll get to it, but more importantly, what the hell am I gonna do with all this cardboard?